I think I got 20, maybe 25 pages into this book. And then I was like, we're done. We're done here. Thank you. Hello, lovely internet people. Welcome back to my channel, Nicole's Many Opinions. I'm Nicole, and I have a lot of opinions. So today, we're going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag, and I will link the OG creators of this tag below. Got some sunscreen on my head. Cute. Okay, so I will link the OG creators of this tag below, so you can go check them out if you want. Otherwise, let's just get into it. So this year, so far, I've read, I think, 67 or 68 books. I'll put my Goodreads thing right here. So my goal originally was 50 books, but, you know, we've been in the house and things, so I surpassed that. So I put my goal back up to 100 books, and we'll see. That would be the most books I've read in a single year, which would be cool, but it's not a race, guys, you know? So we'll see. So the first question is, best book of the year. I actually made a whole video about the best books that I've read so far this year, so you can check that out up there if you want. But if I just had to pick one, I would pick House on the Cerulean Sea, because it's just such a feel-good book. Like, it's what I needed. It's a cotton candy, make you happy cry, beautiful book about a found family and little babies that I fell in love with, and it has a queer love story, and it's just a really good book. So yeah, you should check it out. If I had to pick one, that would be it. Okay, the next one is the best sequel that you read this year. So this is actually a really tricky question, because I have read quite a few sequels this year, and I didn't give any of them 5 stars. None of them. So I didn't really know what to pick. So I decided to go with The Falcon Queen by Joanna Wittenberg. I think Wittenberg. And I picked The Falcon Queen because I actually read the first book, Norris Queen, and the second book, The Falcon Queen, because I like the world building that happened in this story. I like the Norse mythology. I thought that was really cool. The fantasy element in the story is that, especially in the second book, there is more in the second book, is that some people in this universe can, skinwalk, can, see through the eyes of mostly birds, can, be in the body of birds. And that's cool. The main character is badass. She has a really interesting, coming into her own story, and so that's really cool. So all those, super positive. The negatives, the reason that I decided not to read the third book, and maybe I'll go back and read it, but the reason I didn't read it immediately is because the love story in this book. So in the first book, there's some tension between the main character, who I said is badass, and her love interest, and he screws up in this massive way in the first book, in a way that I think is irredeemable. That is how bad he screws up. And then in the second book, he redeems himself. It's billed he goes on a quest, and he was a boy when he screwed up, and he becomes a man, and then they kind of get together, and I'm just not into it, right? If we're gonna write badass female characters, then maybe in the romances give them badass men too, you know? I don't want to read about irredeemable men being redeemed. That's no, that's not the vibes. So yeah, I really didn't like it. And then it got worse throughout the second book. So that was the best sequel I read this year, but not a glowing review by me. Mythology, cool. World building, awesome. Badass main female character, great. Love story, trash. Next question. New releases. Oh, okay, so I'm gonna combine the next question and the one after it, which are the best new releases and most anticipated release for the second half of the year, because the 3 books that I want to list for this I haven't read yet. So the first one is The Vanishing Half. And this book, my understanding of this book, I haven't read it yet, is that it follows the story of two sisters in the United States. And one sister chooses to be white passing and to live her life white passing, and the other sister chooses not to. And then the story follows them and their children, and I think their grandchildren. And so there's a lot of like family connections, the way that culture sees people through race, right? It like follows this lineage. It just sounds really awesome. And all the reviews that I've seen of it are that it's written beautifully. And so, yeah, I want to read that. The next one is All the Feels, which I think came out this month. And it is a contemporary romance, and the female main character is plus sized. And she seems really cool. She's like an ER therapist or something based on the little blurb I read. Mostly it's the cover art, which you'll see right here. I'm into it. I love a plus size love story. I think we should have more of those. Thick girls unite. So, want to read that. And then the last one I really want to read is The Firekeeper's Daughter. So first of all, the cover art on this is beautiful. And so my understanding of this is that it's a thriller. It's a YA thriller about a Native American girl. I think that she's Ojibwe, or she's on an Ojibwe reservation. And she has to like solve this mystery or something. And the author of this book is part of the like community and the tribe that she writes about. And so that's really cool. And so, yeah, I just want to see what's up. It's getting really good reviews already. And the cover art reeled me in. So, okay. Next question. Biggest disappointment so far this year? So I have two. And I think the first one's going to be a little bit controversial because people love this book. They love this book. So my first one is The Vegetarian. And this book was recommended to me so much. I love a creepy thriller. I love a like weird girl thing. I also don't consume animal products. So this book just was like recommended to me a lot. And I read it and I finished it. But I think because of all of the buildup of it, I was expecting just like more of a narrative than I got. I was disappointed by it a lot because of the hype before it. Okay, the next one is called Thanks: How the New Science of Gratitude Can Make You Happier. This was a terrible book. Terrible book. Now, most books I would not say are terrible. I would say almost all books I read are just not for me, but other people will like them. This book, I felt really hoodwinked by this book. This book bills itself as like a positive psychology book, right? Let's listen to the title again. How the New Science of Gratitude Can Make You Happier. Now, I like to read nonfiction books. I'd like to read positive psychology books. So this, I thought, was in that field, right? And I was like, okay, let's read it. I think I got 20, maybe 25 pages into this book. And then I was like, we're done. We're done here. Thank you. It's about this dude, and he talks about God and faith a lot in the first 20 pages. And like his gratitude for his faith. Now, if reading about faith is your thing, I think that that's dope and you should do that. If I wanted to do that, I would have picked that, right? The title of this book says that it's going to be like a positive psychology science book. Name your book about what it's about, right? I don't want to read, personally, a man talking about his journey through faith because we have very different life experiences, homie. And what you have and what I have are very different. And if I wanted that, I would have picked that. I didn't pick that. Okay? So I don't know why we're here. I don't know why you tricked me to read 20 pages of your book. At the end of the day, there are better books written about faith. There are better books written about science. There are better books written about gratitude. Just like tell people what they're getting into. Okay, next one. Where are we? Oh, biggest surprise. So I just read this one for June. This was on my TBR for June. And I was so surprised by this. So it's an anthology called Rags and Bones. And in this anthology, pretty famous like science fiction, fantasy authors rewrite classic stories. So they take a classic story and they either rework it or they like extend it with a short story. So this is a collection of short story anthologies, and it's all based on like classic tales. It's so cool. And after each short story, the author does like a one-page synopsis of why they picked the classic that they picked and what they were thinking about when they wrote it, which I thought was really awesome. And then there are a bunch of beautiful illustrations that punctuate the story between each of the short stories. So I just thought this was really unexpected. It's from 2013, so you know, you won't be on a waiting list if you ask for it from the library. I think you should. It was really cool, and it made me want to read a lot more anthologies and a lot more short stories this year. So that was my biggest surprise. Favorite new author. So she's not a new author, but she's new to me, and I'm gonna pick Shay Earnshaw. This year I read Winterwood, which was on my list of best books that I've read so far this year, and she wrote it, and I liked her writing style. I thought it was really lyrical. I thought it was really pretty, so I liked her writing style. I also really liked her take on magic. I would call it like your grandmother's magic, the magic that like happens in your kitchen, that where you're creating spells, it like happens in your blood, in your lineage, like that kind of I like that. That's so I'm gonna read her next book, Wicked Deep, at some point this year, but I'll probably read a lot of stuff by her because I just thought that she was really good, and I had never even heard of her before this. Newest fictional crush. So I read The Hating Game this year, and everybody's talking about The Hating Game, so I'm pretty sure you've heard of it already. But my crush is going to be both people from The Hating Game, Lucy Hutton, and I think his name is Joshua Templeton. Yeah, I want to be in a throuple. So if we could just be in a relationship together, that would be great, because you're both my crush. That was a good book. You should read that book. Newest favorite character. So I'm a little bit cheating on this question. This is not a new character, but it's a reread. So my favorite author of all time is Tamara Pierce. A lot for nostalgia reasons, but also I just think all her stories and her universes pack a punch. And so anytime I get in a reading slump, I will pick stories by Tamara Pierce and I'll reread them. And so this year I read The Protector of the Small series again. And the main character of The Protector of the Small series is Calendry. And she's dope, right? So you start the quartet. Tamara Pierce almost always writes in quartets. You start the quartet with her starting page training. And she's the first girl in like hundreds of years to go through page training openly as a girl to become a knight. And obviously because everybody knows she's a girl, she deals with a lot of shit. And it follows her growing up, right? A page, and then in knight training, and then becoming a knight and getting her shield. And she's just such a like steadfast character. She's a really good person. She is just really dope and strong, and in the story you watch her try to navigate how to be feminine and have relationships while also being in this job that's incredibly masculine, and how to be in a leadership position over other men, and like all of these things wrapped up in this story about her coming of age. So Calendry is my favorite character from this year, even though it's a reread. She's so good. A book that made you cry. Okay, I'm combining the next two questions. A book that made you cry and a book that made you happy, because it's going to be the same book. House on the Cerulean Sea, which I mentioned before. I read this book on my period, and I was bawling, but like they were all happy tears. I was so happy for the babies and the main characters and everybody. I was just so happy. So if you need that in your soul, like if you need happy crying in your soul, read this book, you know? Very serious with you right now. Very serious. Okay. Next one. Most beautiful book covers. Okay, I'm going to say 2 for this one. So this is not a new book for 2021, but I got it in 2021. It's called Bone China. And this is the back of like a sari, and then these are flowers, and this is a woman's hair. And I just think it's a beautiful cover. And this book is about Sri Lankan independence after the British left, and the Sri Lankan Civil War. And it follows, I think, one family, but maybe more families through the Sri Lankan Civil War and like what that looks like. And I haven't read the whole book yet. What I've read is really cool, and I think the cover is beautiful. The second one I read this month, it's called Bone Houses, The Bone Houses. And I think that cover is gorgeous. It gives me a little bit like Dia de los Muertos vibes. Lovely. And I like the like minimalist but also incredibly intricate aesthetic of it. So that would be my second choice. And then need to read by the end of the year. So I think I mentioned most of the books that I want to read by the end of the year. The Vanishing Half, The Firekeeper's Daughter, All the Feels. There's one more actually that I just saw and I want to read. And I think it just came out in 2021. And it's called Vanguard. And it's about black women and black women receiving the right to vote. And so the way that I understand this book is traditionally in history classes and feminist studies classes, we're taught that the suffrage movement is from Seneca Falls to the 19th Amendment, right? And at the 19th Amendment, women gained suffrage. But actually what happened with the 19th Amendment is that white women gained the right to vote. And so this book talks about how full suffrage was achieved with the Voting Rights Act in 1965, and black women, like how black women galvanized the movement for the Voting Rights Act. And so I feel like it covers a history that most people aren't taught. I was not taught for the most part. And so I think it sounds really, really dope. So I want to read that one. And then the last question for this tag, we made it, guys, is the best book to movie adaptation of the year. So I actually just finished this series on Netflix, and so I'm gonna pick Arsène Lupin, the Great Gentleman Thief, by Maurice Leblanc. I just watched this on Netflix. I thought the main actor in this series was really cool. I think his name's Omar. He's very handsome, but also he plays Lupin really well. He's like a problematic, struggling character. I would kind of compare him to Sherlock Holmes, but the reverse. Really smart, problematic, but interesting, but also on the bad side with the law, but not really, right? Because there's something incredibly satisfying about watching him take this capitalist tyrant mogul out at the knees. Just rooting for him the whole time, right? So that would be what I think is the best adaptation of the year. Okay, that's all we got for this tag. Thanks for joining me. If you made it to the end, hit the thumbs up. If you liked it. If you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down. Tell me why or what you want to hear from me. And see you later, party people. Bye.